The crimson liquid pooled across the laboratory floor, spreading like a living organism beneath the shattered containment unit. Leo pressed his palm against the gash on his abdomen, his vision blurring at the edges. The explosion had torn through Base 7 of the Meridian Station with devastating precision, and now he found himself alone among the wreckage, 300 kilometers above Earth's surface. His emergency suit had failed. The medical kit lay crushed beneath a collapsed bulkhead. Leo's training kicked in: assess, adapt, survive. But survival required stopping the bleeding, and the crimson pool at his feet represented his only option. He didn't know what the liquid was. The containment cylinder bore xenobiology markers, which meant it came from the restricted wing where Bella worked. Dr. Bella Korsian, the station's lead xenobiologist, had arrived 6 months ago with classified cargo from the Titan expedition. Whatever she'd brought back lived in those cylinders, studied in isolation, discussed in whispered conversations that ceased whenever Leo entered a room. The liquid shimmered with an iridescence that ordinary blood didn't possess. Under the emergency lighting, it seemed to pulse with its own bioluminescence, deep violet undertones flickering through the red. Leo's rational mind screamed warnings, but his lizard brain, desperate for survival, had already made the decision. He cupped his trembling hands and lifted the liquid to his lips. "That's my blood, human. Stop drinking." The voice exploded inside his skull, not through his ears but directly into his consciousness. Leo's head snapped up, and there she stood. Bella wasn't human, not anymore. Perhaps she never had been. Her form shimmered between states, sometimes the familiar woman with dark hair and calculating eyes, sometimes something else entirely. Geometric patterns rippled across her skin, mathematical formulas made flesh. Her body existed in more dimensions than 3, Leo realized with growing horror. He could see her fully in this moment, but only because whatever he'd just consumed had altered his perception. Yet he didn't stop drinking. His hands moved of their own accord, bringing more of the liquid to his mouth. It tasted like copper and starlight, like the quantum foam at the edge of existence. Each swallow sent cascading changes through his cellular structure. He could feel his DNA unwinding, recoding, transforming into something new. "You don't understand what you're doing." Bella's true voice resonated on frequencies human vocal cords couldn't produce. "That's not sustenance, it's information. It's consciousness itself." Leo collapsed to his knees, still drinking. The wound on his abdomen had already sealed itself, the flesh knitting together with impossible speed. But that was merely the beginning. His neurons fired in new patterns, forming connections that shouldn't exist in terrestrial biology. His perception expanded outward like a detonation, sweeping through the station, through the void beyond, touching minds he'd never known existed. The blood, Bella's blood, was a medium for thought itself, not metaphorically but literally. The entities she belonged to had evolved past physical limitations, encoding their consciousness into a self-replicating fluid that could store, transmit, and process information at quantum speeds. Each drop contained civilizations' worth of data, experiences spanning millennia, knowledge that would shatter human sanity. "Stop, stop!" Bella lunged forward, her hand, if it could be called a hand, reaching for him. But Leo had consumed too much. The transformation had reached critical threshold. His body convulsed as new sensory organs budded from his nervous system, growing into spaces that existed outside traditional geometry. He could suddenly perceive the universe as Bella did, not as 3 dimensions plus time, but as an 11-dimensional manifold where past and future coexisted, where probability itself had texture and taste. The Meridian Station spread before his enhanced perception like a child's toy. He saw the explosion that had nearly killed him, but now he saw it from multiple temporal angles. He watched it occur, witnessed it about to occur, and simultaneously observed its aftermath. The sabotage became obvious. A rival corporation had planted quantum destabilizers in the power grid, timed to detonate when Bella's research reached a critical phase. They'd been trying to kill her, to destroy the knowledge she carried. "What have you done to yourself?" Bella's voice had softened, tinged with something that might have been sorrow. "You were supposed to remain blind, safe." Leo tried to speak, but words were insufficient for what he'd become. His consciousness touched hers, and suddenly he understood everything. Bella had come to Earth as a refugee. Her species, the architects they called themselves, existed as distributed intelligence across the cosmos, their consciousness encoded in the very fluid that now ran through Leo's veins. They'd been at war with the recursors, entities that consumed information itself, that fed on knowledge and left only entropy in their wake. The recursors had found Earth. They were coming. Bella had been preparing humanity's defense, using her position on Meridian Station to conduct research into human architecture hybridization. If humanity could be uplifted, enhanced with architecture consciousness, they might survive the coming storm. But the process required voluntary transformation, careful preparation, decades of gradual change. Leo had forced that change in minutes. His body had become a battleground where human DNA fought against architecture restructuring. Cells died by the billions, replaced by something new, neither fully human nor fully architecture. He was becoming a bridge between species, a prototype born of desperation rather than design. "The pain will be extraordinary," Bella said, kneeling beside him. "Your mind is expanding into spaces it wasn't designed to occupy. Most of your original neural pathways will die. You'll lose memories, skills, perhaps your very sense of self." Leo felt it happening. His childhood in Mumbai faded to abstract concepts. His engineering degree dissolved into unconnected facts. The face of his mother became a stranger's portrait. He was being erased from the inside, his humanity bleeding away even as something vaster took root. "But you'll survive," Bella continued, her multidimensional hand resting against his forehead. "And that survival will change everything." She showed him the future branching before them. In one path, Leo died here, his transformation incomplete. Bella continued her research alone, but humanity moved too slowly. The recursors arrived before Earth's defenses were ready. Civilization crumbled, knowledge vanished, and the planet became a tomb. In another path, Leo survived. His hybrid nature became the template for rapid human enhancement. Within a decade, thousands would drink the blood, would transform, would join the expanding consciousness that connected architecture minds across the galaxy. Humanity would lose much of what made them human, but they would persist, evolve, transcend. "Choose," Bella said, and Leo realized she was giving him a final gift, the ability to determine which future would unfold. He could resist the transformation, force his dying human biology to reject the architecture restructuring. Death would be peaceful, quick. The moral burden of humanity's transformation would remain with Bella alone. Or he could embrace it, become the first true hybrid, prove that humans could survive the change, open the floodgates for a transformation that would rewrite the species. Leo thought of the billions on Earth below, oblivious to the choice being made in this moment. He thought of the children who would grow up in whichever world his decision created. He thought of his mother, whose face he could no longer quite remember, and wondered if she would have wanted him to choose extinction over transformation. The pain in his skull reached a crescendo. Reality itself seemed to tear around him as his consciousness expanded beyond the breaking point. He chose. Leo stopped fighting. He surrendered to the change, letting the architecture consciousness flood through every remaining neuron. His human self didn't die so much as dissolve, merging with something infinitely larger. He felt Bella's relief wash through their shared awareness, felt her loneliness ease as another mind joined hers in the vast dark. And in that joining, everything changed. His perception, now operating across multiple time streams simultaneously, caught the ripples of consequence spreading outward from this moment. On Earth, Scientists would detect anomalies in his biosignature. Investigations would begin. Bella's research would be discovered, and with it, the truth about the recursors. Humanity would panic, then humanity would prepare. The transformation wouldn't be forced. Bella had been right about that. But it would be offered, and millions would volunteer. Within a generation, Earth would be home to two species: baseline humans who chose to remain as they were, and architecture-enhanced posthumans who had drunk the blood and accepted the change. Leo opened eyes that now perceived in 11 dimensions and looked at Bella, truly saw her for the first time. She was beautiful in ways human aesthetic sense couldn't capture, terrible in ways human survival instincts couldn't process. She was his sister now, in the deepest possible sense. "Welcome," she said, her voice harmonizing across multiple timelines, "to the war, to the future, to everything that comes after." The station alarms continued their automated wailing, oblivious to the fact that humanity's trajectory had just shifted. In Base 7, among the wreckage and the spilled blood that had once belonged to something not quite human, Leo stood on trembling legs and prepared to face a universe infinitely stranger than the one he'd known just minutes before. He had drunk the blood, and everything had changed. The recursors were coming, but humanity, enhanced and transformed, would be ready. The real question was whether what survived would still be recognizable as human at all.